Hey, hello. Good morning or good afternoon to all of you, depending on where you are in the country. My name is Richard Capone. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Let's Go Learn. And today we're going to have a nice action-packed webinar for you talking about the Let's Go Learn solution. I'm real excited to be doing this, especially because we're in October, and I was really pleasantly surprised at how many people signed up. I think the fall rush is over. People are starting to think about, hey, what else can I do to help with some of our workflows and processes? So that's why probably we've got this webinar. We had so much popularity. So first of all, so who is Let's Go Learn? So I started Let's Go Learn in 2000 with Dr. McCollum of UC Berkeley. And it's interesting, at the time he ran the Reading Credential Program. And when we launched our first assessment, it was in 2001. And it was probably one of the first assessments called before the computer adaptive term even existed. And we launched on a modem. Now, I like bringing this up because we really, at our heart, are hardcore diagnostic assessment company, and we're technologists. So we're taking all of this and combining it. And what's interesting, and it wasn't really until 2019 that we shifted to special education. And a lot of it was because we realized special educators need the data at the level that we produce. And that's why we're also excited, because we were just recently endorsed by CASE, our product was. So anyways, that's a little bit of the background on Let's Go Learn. Okay, so quickly, I just want to talk about the challenges, like 1 minute on this, facing most of you all in a special education department, right? Teacher shortages means you're hiring new teachers, you need to onboard them quickly. A lot of times you maybe have some different certifications that aren't quite there yet. So you have some temporary teachers coming in as well with certifications. The other thing about all of this is that a lot of times there's imperfect data that's still being used in the department, like the assessment that you have, maybe it's something that is pushed down from CNI. And so the data isn't always ideal for your teachers to use, right? And so this is a big issue, a big challenge. The other thing is writing IEPs and setting goals requires a lot of expertise, but when you have new teachers or you have bigger caseloads, it's harder to do that. So these are some of the major challenges you guys are facing. And so I'm going to address how technology can actually help you in these areas, okay? It's not often that we have these inflection in technology, but we are actually at an inflection point where if you all don't embrace the latest and greatest technology, you're actually, in some ways, not bringing your department up into the current time period, right? All right, so what is Let's Go Learn? We have a data-driven personalized learning. We're hardcore diagnostic assessment in math and reading at the top level. And then once students take that assessment, that data is used by the teachers for IEP writing, for goal setting, and then we generate automatic gap-focused SDI, right? That's what these two courses are. So that is what we are at a sort of a very broad level. Now, I need to dive down and get more nuanced, okay? Also, I want to point out that while you guys are special educators and we use a lot of special education departments, our one assessment can be used by all departments. So a single assessment, our math and reading assessment, can be used in general education and intervention as well as special education. The difference is the reports and tools are going to be different, right? Like a general ed class may just use it for a growth measure, maybe parent reports, and maybe supplemental practice, where the special education department is going to be using the progress monitoring tool, the IEP writing tool, accelerated intervention, right? So they're going to be using a lot of other different tools, and that's how we're able to work across the district. And I like bringing that up because imagine having the same assessment across all departments, right? And that is something that some of our customers actually do. All right, so how does our technology support you? This is the way it works in a special ed department. You would first do the assessment, give it to the kids in math and reading, and then you would use that assessment data, the tools, to write your IEPs, to set up your goals. We find 44 present levels in math and 7 present levels in reading. And that data is very powerful, right? So imagine having that data at your fingertips. Then we have automatic SDI. So an automatic course is created for every single student in ELA and math. So the teacher can just sign it. They could tweak it. They could also sign individual lessons. And then finally, anytime the teacher wants to do a quiz in our system, they assign a quiz, short vowel, long vowel, 4th grade passage, 2-digit by 1-digit multiplication, 2D objects. When the student passes that quiz, that data automatically lays on top of your baseline data, and you have automatic progress monitoring, all right? Now I'm going to show this to you. So this is quite incredible. Now, on top of all of that, is we have bite-sized professional development. So the reality is, how do you operationalize this for your team? Well, first hour training is, how do I get started? How do I test my kids? The second hour is, how do I use the right IEPs, set goals? And maybe later on is, how do I use it to assign SDI if I want to do some custom SDI based on what I'm trying to cover? So we break it all up, right? So that's why this is sort of the whole process. Now, by the way, this whole process is what CASE endorsed of us, right? So they looked at this whole thing and they agreed that our product is made for special educators. Okay, so the secret sauce. I only have a few more slides and then we're going to jump into the demo. So this is the key to why we are different than other assessments, right? There's lots of assessments out there, and a lot of times there's, a lot of broad-based measures, but we're a diagnostic model assessment, meaning when we assess a student, we find their present level, that's what these little points are right here, across 44 subtests of math and 7 of reading. So let's take a look at place value. If the student's present level is right there, what does that mean to you, the teacher, when you want to dig into the data? So you'll look at place value and realize place value is tens and ones, hundreds, tens, thousands, 100,000s, expanded form, 10,000, millions, and then decimal place value. So the student's present level is right there. We have definitively determined that through testing, not one question, but a set of items. Your teacher now knows that. And so that's the present level. The thing the student needs to work on next is this skill and this skill, right? So we do this across all of the subtests, foundational subtests in math, and as well as reading. So that is the difference of a diagnostic model assessment, is we actually are accurate at the skill and concept level, where a lot of assessments will just say, well, Richard is, he's at 4.5 or 765 in numbers and operations. That is so broad that it doesn't tell you what to do, right? So a diagnostic model could do it this way. Same thing in reading, but the difference is that there's less subtests, okay? Okay, so let me go ahead and just talk, I think 2 more slides and then I'll jump into the demo. The instruction we have, right? So when you have a good data, you now want to drive good SDI. And so we also have to have a model for doing this. So the way to optimize learning for non-traditional learners is you have to consider engagement, cognitive load, and motivation. So we consider all of these in our lessons. So having the assessment up front, giving the student the right lesson at the right level reduces cognitive load. Having music to activate the brain, for instance, right? That really helps everything, improves motivation, cognitive load, because you now hear music as you're learning stuff as well as you're seeing it. It makes it easier to learn it. So these are all the factors that we build into our lessons to make sure that they're going to help students with IEPs, right? So I just want to make sure you understand that. And then also we have gamification. So we explicitly teach in our lessons, and then we gamify practice. So we're not like online worksheets or something like that, where it's just test practice. We're actually full on intervention that's gap focused. All right. So system demo, what you guys were all waiting for. So I am logged into an account right now. Now this is real data. Okay. So this is what's exciting about this. This is real student data that we have in our system, but the names have all been obfuscated. So they've been changed and randomized, as well as birth dates. So what's cool about this is it actually gives you an idea of how a teacher would see this. So initially, I'm looking at the reading page. So the student has finished a reading assessment. We have high frequency words, word recognition, phonics, phonemic awareness, spelling, vocabulary comprehension. We roll our mouse over there. We see, oh, phonics, the score is going to range from 0.17 to 4.83. These are grade level scores, so it's very understandable, right? When someone tells you Richard's at 476, I don't know what that means. Right? A scaled score, it's like, okay, that doesn't mean anything to me. But if you say, well, Richard's at 0.83 or Sonia's at 0.83 in phonics, I know that means she's at beginning sounds, right? If they're at 4.5, I think that's at multisyllabic syllables. So there's something tied to those scores. So this is how you can look at your class sort of initially. Now, if I wanted to drill down and let's take a look at a student report, I could say, let's take a look at Catherine here. I'm going to take a look at teacher-parent report, include some recommended activities. So now here's a report, how Catherine reads words. So it's looking at her skills across high-frequency words, word rec, and phonics. It goes down how she's making meaning from words, how she's putting it all together. So this report is a great one. It's meant to be a layperson can read and understand it. We also see within phonics, what she needs to work on next is multiple syllables, right? So again, this is a great report if you wanted to print this out for a parent or for a tutor, for somebody to understand how the student is doing. Now, if I come back over here, there's something else. Let's say I was working in an inclusion class and I wanted to work across everyone. I could say, well, let's take a look at phonics, because that is very skills-based. Here's the scope and sequence of phonics of my entire class. These students are working on the beginning sounds. This one student, Juan, is working on a consonant blends. And Catherine, who we just looked at, she's working on multiple syllables. So we have our small groups, right? And this is available every day. Anytime I come on here, I can click on it, right? So this is pretty important. Okay, now let me show you something else. So let's say you got the base assessment done, and now your teachers want to write an IEP or they want to set goals for a student. So I'm going to go ahead and let's grab one of these students. Let's see here. I'll grab this one right here. So let's grab Juan. I'm going to choose special education. Okay, so now we see that Juan is he's a fifth grader, but he is low. And even though his comprehension is really low, I really need to work on decoding first. So he's got some high frequency word skills. Phonics is still pretty low. I'm gonna focus on phonics. I think that's very tangible right now. So I'm gonna click on phonics. We see his present level is Juan can read all words with short vowels. Great, that's what he can do, right? But I now want to know, what should I work on next? So I'm going to choose some skills here. I hit refresh. And now what I need to work on next is consonant blend as well as long vowel, some words and all words. So I need to work on consonant blends as well as long vowel. So those are my next skills I'm going to target. I have just definitively given these to the teacher based on data. There's no guesswork here. We know this is what we need to work on because Juan actually did do a consonant blend test and he got a non-mastery. So this is definitive. Later on, if I wanted to have a profile for Juan, here it is, right here. This is a custom paragraph written on him, right? So again, this is great text for the teacher to go ahead and use this. It actually was written for him, so it's actually very detailed, and then you could tweak it and adjust it. But again, that's what our system is doing. It's allowing the teacher to save time in terms of writing this. Now, part of our training too is going to help teachers take it to the next level as well if your goals are made to be a certain way. Okay, so let me real quickly just show you the math data because I don't have a lot of time. We're about halfway through. All right, so now let's take a look at the math data. This is where we really excel because I would argue that almost every single assessment out there in math is summative. None of them are truly diagnostic. This is very similar to what you would see on NWEA, iReady, Exact Path. You would see these strand scores. So if we take a look at someone, let's take a look at Juan again. Ooh, Juan's pretty good in math, actually. It's interesting. 3.85 in numbers and operations, 2.67, 1.75. Those, though, are summative scores. What does that mean? So I want to drill down to numbers and operations. So I'll click on numbers and operations. And now we see numbers or operations is broken up into numbers, place value, comparing and ordering, addition of whole numbers, subtraction of whole numbers. Let's look at place value because that's an interesting one. I showed you before about how to look at across the entire class. Now, this is the scope and sequence of place value. These students are all working on 2-digit, and one is working on 10,000, 100,000s, and millions. So again, this is my small group instruction. All right. If I want to jump in now and start working on an IEP, so let me just go back to summary so we can look at it. I'm going to go ahead and let's just grab Guy. So do a special ed report. Okay. If I look at Guy, I'd say, okay, well, my goal, I want to get his numbers and operations scores 0.8. He's a third grader. I'm going to set this from 0.8. I want to get him to 1.8. That's going to be my goal, maybe. So I choose that. I'm going to really focus on numbers and operations because I think that's really foundational. Initially, I have present, and I do have it selected. Present level, Guy, given manipulatives, Guy can identify a number of objects. Good. Place value, Guy has no mastery of the first skill and the place value. Okay, so I'm getting some present level. Guy can compare single digit numbers. Great. I now know what he can do. So if I need to write that IEP in that present level, I have hard data. This is hard data. I know exactly what to do. Now I want to figure out what do I do next for him. So I'm going to select 3 goals. Now these are my goals. So these are the next skills to work on. So I'm going to focus on numbers and then probably addition of whole numbers. So these look like 3 skills I might want to choose, and then maybe here's another 3 skills. And I'm choosing these based on the grade level score. So this is, of course, what we would train your teachers on how to do. Now, this is again, very definitive. There's no guesswork here. This is based on the student's data, right? Very, very powerful. Now, based on this data, right? So I come up with my plan, I have my short-term goals. This data also drives our automatic SDI. So whether the teacher is working on these directly or they want to put them into our automatic SDI or they want to do a combination of the two, it's all there, right? And so I'll show you when I come over here to instruction. Oh, okay, the guy is not. Let's see if it does list him. Oh, okay, sorry. So he is not actually in a lesson. So I'm going to grab someone else. All right, so I'll look at Neil. So if I look at Neil, we see the lessons that have been queued up for him right here. So this is actually what he's working on next. Name that shape, count to 10, count up to 10. And so this is a personalized course developed directly for Neil. And every single student gets their own personalized course based on that data. Now here, quiz Neil separately on counting up to 10, and he passed that quiz. It automatically grabs that lesson, removes it out of his automated course. And when I come back into my score system right here, if somebody gets a quiz, it would recalculate their numbers and operation score and recalculate their total score. That's the next piece I want to mention, that we have automatic progress monitoring, because anytime someone does a quiz, the data updates and all of these scores are recalculated, right? So that's quite important to make that part of your progress monitoring. Okay, so that it's sort of in a nutshell. There's a lot more to our system. Once you have all this powerful data, it really paves the way for a lot more ability to drive differentiation, to change your processes, right? And that's something where our customer success team will work with you, because you may say, I want to operationalize this for my teachers, but we work in a certain way. But the key is to have this base level data, right, at your fingertips, and then we work to how do we make this more operational for you. Okay, let me just see if I can show you one more thing before we take some questions. Okay, great. So right here for Hilda, I want to look at some of her growth. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, these are all the different tests she took over time. And so I'm going to go ahead and just grab a few of these and just graph it. So we see her total score went from 0.25 to 0.75. You know, the student is very low. Some early kindergarten to end of kindergarten. Within data, her score went really high, up to 1.5. And then we see some geometry and algebra, the different strands, right? So again, this is the data. If I wanted to sort of break it into, you know, a more detailed area, I can actually look at, and actually I won't look at this one student, I'll look at a different student. Let's see here. Okay. So if I wanted to look at a specific strand, because I know the student is making some progress there, I can go ahead and do that, chart it. Now we're looking specifically, like within place value, you can see how Juan has grown, right? He was at end of first grade, and now he's at end of third grade, right? Place value, addition of whole number, subtraction of whole number. So this is great for progress modeling. The teacher doesn't even have to think about this. All the teacher does to initiate this data is assign quizzes. So if you work on something, then we test it. Okay. All right. That is it in a nutshell. Why don't we go ahead and take some questions? Great. Oh, I see some questions have popped up. Okay. So when our teachers write goals, they're in the SMART goal format. How does your goal writing support this? Okay, so that's true. That's a very good question. Let me just real quickly go to a student. I'm going to go to the IEP tool. So this is something that we will have to train your teachers on, because what we're providing you is the breakout, right, at the skill level. So if I come over here and now I'm looking at this, so you will have to change this. So for instance, it says, Juan will identify thousands, 10,000s, 100,000s, and millions. That's what he's working on next. So your SMART goal maybe change something like Juan will demonstrate 80% mastery when quizzed in thousands, 10,000s, 100,000s, and millions, right? So you're going to have to learn how to extract out that skill right there and put it into your format. We are working on some new features in the future to allow some of this to be automated, so you can choose a template of how your SMART goal works, but we don't have those features done yet. But the key, the hardest part here is knowing that Juan needs to identify thousands, 10,000s, 100,000, right? That's what our assessment does. Here's another one. After that, Juan needs to learn how to identify decimal place value. So that is how we tie into that through training. Our CSS will work with you on operationalizing that for your team. All right, that was a great question. Another goal writing. How do your goal writing select align to individual state standards? So okay, so right here there's standards, and you'll be able to choose other state standards. So we're aligned to most states. But let's say this is a 5th grader, and I'm going to go ahead and choose. Let's see here. Okay, so here's a good example: fractions. Fractions, Juan right now, he's in 5th grade. He needs to work towards 5NF1. That's a fraction standards, but his instructional point right now is 2G3. So that is how we're aligning, is we take the standard, we break it apart and look and say, these specific skills, which standard do they fall into? Now, sometimes this is hard to do because there are some times when you're no longer teaching that standard, that skill at the grade level. So we have to roll it up. We do roll it up to the higher level, but this is a great, tool to have, because then the teachers don't have to look it up, and so on and so forth. All right. Great. Let's see here. And let's see, do we have another one? Okay, here's another question. How you mentioned progress monitoring. How exactly are you making progress monitoring easier for your teachers? Okay, so let me describe this. So initially, you assign the assessment, the reading assessment and math assessment, and then later on, I'm actually going to show you. You go into test queue and you say, okay, I'm going to go to Mason, and I'm going to add an individual quiz. So I'm going to scroll down to quizzes, and I'm going to type in decimal place value. Here it is, decimal place value quiz. I actually have it in Spanish as well. I'm going to go ahead, and by the way, we have a Spanish assessment and reading assessment, so we have both. So I'm going to queue up this quiz, right? I just click this button, and now we have queued up that assessment decimal place value for this one student. When this student takes this quiz and passes it, let's say hopefully they did, then that automatically flows, okay, numbers and operations into this column right here. The score is going to boost up into place value, excuse me, and that in turn will boost your numbers and operations score, and that'll turn to boost your total score. So what happens is at the end of the week, however number of quizzes you had, they would show up on these white lines. At the end of the week, a snapshot is recorded showing you a new total for that student. I don't have to do anything as a teacher. All I do is queue up the quiz. So what we'll work with you is articulating the workflow. Like if you want to embrace this kind of style of progress monitoring, we would say, okay, let's train the teachers, maybe after the initial assessment on how do you queue up quizzes. And the great thing is, whether this is our instruction or your instruction, it doesn't matter. It's all integrated, right? So the idea is to get this going, and then now you have solid data that's compliant. If someone wants to know, hey, are you making progress with my student, my child? Are you getting progress? You can go ahead and do that. All right. It's a great question. So the last one is, okay, here's another question. Can you individually assign lessons to students? Excuse me. Yes, you can. So let's say I want to go to the whiteboard. I see all my lessons, K lessons, grade level 1, grade level 2, grade level 3. By the way, we have digital literacy, we have financial literacy, we have work-life skills. Also, we have math down here as well. So I can, whatever I want to. So I can actually, let's say I'm working with a group of students, I could just say, hey, add fractions, different denominators. I can assign any of these individual lessons. I'm just looking at the whiteboard so you can see the titles, and you could click on it to preview it. Do these through a custom assignment tool. So I could assign it to either a group of students or to one student at a time. I could also assign lessons if I'm looking at the data. Remember how I showed you before the place value. Sorry, I know I'm going fast, but don't worry about the clicks. Just maybe worry about what I'm clicking on. So right here, Juan, if I wanted to assign a lesson to him, or if I wanted to do beginning place value to all these kids, I could check here, and then I click HW, which is like homework. You click that button, and now I could find a lesson and assign it to them. Okay. So, whether it's through automation for individual, looking at data, making assignments, finding a student, making assignments, however you want to do it, you have the ability to do it. Okay. Another quick thing too is you go to the home tab. We've got all sorts of on-demand video courses, video library. So if you want to know, how do I assign an assessment? You just click here and you search for it, and we'll show you how to do it. I think we're almost out of time. So let's see here if we have any other questions. I'm going to go ahead and put my information right here. So feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions. Also, if you go to our website and just click on any button that says talk to an expert, we'll connect you with one of our ed consultants in your state. But anyway, thank you so much. And I think we're hitting it. We're on time. So thank you so much for attending. And we are so excited to be working with departments across the country. We know you have a tough job. Special education is challenging. And we feel like we have the tools that really can make a difference in your workflows. I know a lot of times people say, hey, my teachers can't handle, they have so many things going on, but you know what? In 1 hour, we can get your teachers up and running on doing an assessment. The second hour, we teach them how to use the data to write IEPs and set goals. Maybe the third hour, we teach them how to use automated SDI as well, do custom assignments. So, we do it in bite-sized pieces for you. So don't worry, it doesn't have to be hard. We'll roll it out and support you however you need it. All right, thank you so much.